Political is one thing, whether you're monetizing or cashing that in or taking advantage of that monetarily is another thing. But what the administration seems to be saying are those 6 former Obama administration intelligence officials maybe should have their security clearance revoked. Florida Republican Congressman Gaetz, he's a member of the House Judiciary Committee. So much to talk about, Congressman. So if you'll indulge me on this, I didn't even know you would still get such clearance after you leave office. I guess it's for up to 3 years, but that surprised me.
It surprises me as well, Neil, and it might be appropriate to look at that policy more broadly, but the real challenge here is that we all have a stake in the action to ensure that intelligence does not become politicized at any stage in the game. And we learned recently with the release of the Carter Page FISA application that there was a political opposition research document that went from the Democratic Party to the Perkins Coie law firm, to Fusion GPS, and then because Fusion hired Nellie Orr, a spouse of a senior Justice Department official, that political document worked its way into the intelligence process. And so, again, I support the president's efforts to ensure that our intelligence doesn't get politicized. I'm not entirely sure if all of the individuals named maintain a full security clearance, but the president certainly has reason to be concerned.
In the Carter Page stuff, I'm still not sure because so much was redacted from that and just, wiped out. You had no idea what was going on. But having said that, apparently the impetus to originally look into him with these reports that he was talking to Russian operatives or Russians in general, apart from all of this other, pardon the term, trumped up stuff. What did you make of that?
I made that it was not sufficient alone to obtain the warrant, Neil. If you look at the Nunes memo, it made the hard charge that so much of the Steele dossier was essential, was the critical piece of evidence, and I think that the release of the FISA application bears that out. It also bears out that the Michael Isikoff Yahoo News article was used to corroborate the Steele dossier. It was mentioned 4 times in the first 30 pages of the FISA application, and that was a news article that was planted by Christopher Steele. And so, it would have been very easy for the people seeking this desire to spy on Carter Page to simply say that the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton's campaign, were involved in curating this information, and then the court could have made the decision, but they didn't do that.
How can you get anything from these, documents? We're rifling through them, but they're all blacked out here. So I don't know what they would infer or imply here, but they seem to, right here, Republicans saying they discredit the whole Mueller probe, Democrats saying here was a guy who's separate from this other charge that they were only pursuing this investigation based on nefarious political information. In his case, they had stuff on him meeting with Russians. Now, do you find his just meeting with Russians, let's say during the campaign, to be a problem?
Well, of course, I think that any time there's an attempt at Russian malign influence, it's bad. But in the words of Andrew McCabe, there would never have been this application granted for spying in the absence of the dossier. So, look, you're right. This application will be an ink blot test. Republicans will look at it and see one thing. Democrats will look at it and see another. My hope is that all Americans would accept the premise that if a political party paid for information and then essentially paid to hire the spouse of a senior Justice Department official to cloak that with the legitimacy of the intelligence community, that as Americans, we would all think that that should be disclosed in a non-adversarial setting like the FISA court. Remember, there's no defense attorney. There's no way to challenge the information, and the Woods procedures at the FBI would have required all information, even information that wasn't very helpful to the government's case, to be disclosed, and here it wasn't. So again, you're right. Both sides will look at this very differently, but we should find common purpose in the theory that political documents should not be the basis of spying.
All right. Well, of course, they argue otherwise, and back and forth we go. But real quickly then on the president then fingering these former Obama administration intelligence officials, that I guess you would have to prove, or maybe you don't have to prove, that they monetarily took advantage of that information they had, or is this his own political witch hunt to something he deems to be a political witch hunt?
I can tell you, Neil, we get a lot of briefings here in the Capitol building that we can't talk about on television, and my fear is that Mr. Brennan is a lot more involved than the American people know, and I think that the president is right to be suspicious of Mr. Brennan having access to information, and we've seen that he's used it to try to make a political case, not to contribute to the collection of intelligence. So if there was some legitimate lag time for 3 years before, I don't think that would apply to Brennan in these circumstances.
All right, Congressman, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Neil.
All right, meanwhile,